Hi and welcome. My name is Kate Lester. I'm the CEO of Diamond Logistics. And today I'm joined here by a friend and client of ours, Hilary from Sacred Spirits. And we're going to be talking about shared success, which is the partnership really between two businesses in logistics and a fast-moving and essential consumer good, Sacred Spirits, and how our partnership together has helped both businesses grow, but also most importantly, focusing on Sacred Spirits and their amazing journey, particularly over the pandemic. So welcome, Hilary.
Thank you very much, Kate. Very pleased to be here.
Great. So talk to us about the Sacred Spirit story. Where was the idea about getting into producing such a vital product?
An essential service during lockdown.
Absolutely, yes.
So it's actually my husband's idea. We started off, it's my husband and myself. My husband is Ian Hart. He worked in finance and I was in fact a journalist. But this was around 2008 and the crash was coming and basically Ian was out of a job and had to find something else. I was working as a journalist, I was freelance, and that work was getting tricky too. And Ian he's always been interested in distillation, which he sounds quite strange, but he studied science at university, and he also had an interest in alcohol in that he collected Bordeaux wine. And he was from London, and he thought it'd be really nice to make a product that was from London. So he thought about gin, and now there are so many gins around, it seems really, really obvious.
But not so much in 2008, right? So it was a really innovative product at that point.
It was. At the time, I mean, you obviously had the usual things, like, well, Hendrix was just coming out, that's probably the most unusual. And Bombay Sapphire, they were considered very sort of new on the market. But there was just, there was Gordon's and Tanqueray and many good brands. But anyway, Ian thought it would be good to produce a new, fresh tasting gin. What was different about the way he did it was that we don't use a copper still, we use vacuum distillation, which means it distills at a much lower temperature and it makes it very fresh, very smooth. And it also meant that we could do this in our house. So our original distillery was in our house until 2019, actually.
And I think that's an incredible bit about how it's a startup story, not just a scale-up story. So this very much talks about the evolution, because our relationship actually started around September 2020. So that's very much in your scale-up journey, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when we first started speaking with you guys, you were actually very orientated towards the retail side of things, weren't you?
Yes, so, and bars and restaurants.
And bars and restaurants.
But retail was very important. And of course, when the pandemic came, there were no bars and restaurants, and we really had to get our product out to people as quickly as we could. And so online business became very important.
And it's quite interesting, actually. So you were talking about I guess people call it a multimodal, delivery to your consumers. And if you're very retail orientated, and I won't mention retail unless you're comfortable doing so, but it's a very high, premier type of retailer.
Yes.
But their shops were shut effectively. And then you had a degree of online stuff anyway, didn't you?
Yes.
So you were already selling online. But you did speak to me earlier, and I think this is really kind of telling, particularly in an artisan product, a local product that starts up and then scales up, about how you go from distilling originally in your home, and then you expanded to external distillery. You're also talking about 1 year when your hallway was full of parcels up to your knees, and your experience with the post office.
Yeah, so when we first started, we did sell online, and it was my job, on top of everything else, to take the orders, pack them up, and take them to the post office. I mean, more or less do what you do here, but I did it, and probably, not half as well or as neatly. And there was a great deal of care, but there was one point, Christmas, you could not get in our hall because it was just, knee sometimes higher, filled with packages. And it was ridiculous. And I think I said to you earlier, I went to the post office so much that when it wasn't busy, the staff used to ask if I'd like a coffee, because I was just there. I knew them all.
A very good customer indeed,
yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's the point whereby you have to look at what parts of the business your talents are properly utilised on and useful for.
Yes.
And I guess, was that when you first considered the outsourcing of elements of your business?
Yeah, so it came that we actually had to, because we actually physically couldn't do it. And the other thing, I couldn't do anything else. So I was meant to be doing our press and well, customer service, all kinds of things. I mean, you know, when you start up a business, and it was Ian and myself for a long time, you're just doing everything and you wear many hats, and there wasn't the time. People would say, "Oh, is your gym business full-time business?" And I'd say, "God, we could have 3 times the hours in the day, and we would not have enough time."
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when your time's infinite, you've very much got to choose the areas that you're going to be focusing on and outsource the stuff. And I think there was 2 things you mentioned there. Not only to stuff that maybe isn't within your skill set or stuff that can be done better by other people, but also where your time can be spent more sort of productively if you outsource that bit. So we weren't your first fulfillment centre though, were we? You had experienced somebody else and they were lovely.
We really liked them. They were really nice. But unfortunately, it was very difficult to keep control of what stock we had. They sent us weekly stock reports, which was fine, but sometimes you need to know 2 days before that or a day after.
Why is the importance of stock so important in your business?
Well,
stock levels.
Well, definitely at Christmas in particular. Because you're sending stuff out to people all the time, and we might have a promotion on a product or something. You have to make sure you've got enough in there. The promotion might really take off, and you didn't send enough stock, or it might not. So you have to keep an eye on that kind of thing.
Okay, so that was a challenge with the other fulfillment company.
Yeah. The other thing I want to say that's actually very important when you talk about skill sets is that it's really difficult. I don't know if you want to send a single parcel of alcohol abroad, it's really, really tough. And we've never quite worked out how to do it. Whereas if you have a good fulfillment centre like Diamond, they arrange all that for you and take all that off your hands. But it can take a lot of time.
Part of the remit, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, what importance, therefore, based on the fact that yours is an artisan product and it's very much about your client experience, and it's about this beautiful packaging and botanicals in your gin and vodka and all the rest of it. Your vodka of which has contributed to many of my parties at home. And I must recommend to everybody, get the Bloody Mary box. It's a lifesaver on a Sunday morning. So that's a very artisan, very sort of touchy-feely product. So the concept of logistics it's a little bit matter of fact, really, isn't it? So what bits and particularly when we're talking about technology, but what is the difference that the technology is meant to you in terms of integration with your online platforms, in terms of you being able to monitor the stock, in terms of being able to keep an eye on the deliveries and what's going right and wrong? It's
been really good. So, as I said, the stock control is very important. Again, being able to see where the deliveries have got to. So if customers ring up or send an email and say, where's my parcel got to, we can have a look and we see where it's got to. Or if it's not clear, someone at Diamond always manages to find out where it's got to. So all that is very important. Customer service, because we are still, we're growing, but we still are quite small and people expect a very personal service from us. So it's really important that our logistics company can give that across and make it seem very smooth, like, there's no kind of join.
So I guess that's like a reflection of company values,
exactly,
right?
Right.
Exactly. So, and I think that's really important when you're talking, logistics can seem very matter of fact, but ultimately speaking, you need to be choosing a partner that is congruent with the values and beliefs of your business and also appreciates the importance of that product to you.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons you and I get on is that we're both entrepreneurs in our own businesses. It's ours, so it really matters.
It really does.
And I think that matters in terms of who you're choosing to, and who you choose to work with too.
Yes.
I don't necessarily want to work, please do come forward. But I really like working with founder owners because they get it.
Yes.
They get, you know what it's like.
I every time we do not have many, but when we ever have had complaints or we have fallen slightly short, I take it so personally. It's so upsetting.
Yeah.
And so, which is good in a way because it makes you work really hard at making sure everything goes right.
Yeah. So forgive me if you see me checking over here. So A, I've not got the right glasses on today, and B, I'm making sure that I don't run over my time because I know how precious your attention is. So thank you for listening. So one of the things I adored about, so there's 2 things I really want to talk about. Number one, it sounds really boring, but it's such an important part of the online purchasing experience. It's one of the bits that I really, really enjoy, that as a consumer, when your goods arrive with me, it's almost like a little Christmas every time you open something. So how important is that to you in terms of design, in terms of what the packaging does to preserve your product, in terms of what that is as part of the customer experience?
It's really, really important. And so we've thought about it very long and hard. So we've obviously had branded tissue paper. We used to have slightly different boxes, but now we have much more sustainable packaging, which I think is really, really important and people expect.
Yes.
And I have to say that Diamond has helped us a lot with that. Emma has given us all sorts of samples and things to look at that we could choose. And you also now actually buy the packaging, the outer packaging for us, which again takes another job off our list. You know, don't have to think, oh my God, are we running out of hex boxes or anything? You know, that's all kind of looked after.
Yeah.
But the packaging we thought about very, very carefully. Yes, you want it to have a sense of occasion when it arrives. It wants to feel special, particularly as a lot of our orders are gifts for people.
Yes. So one of the things that I think is really important is that, of course, I first knew you as Sacred Gin, and you're not Sacred Gin anymore. I mean, I've got Sacred Vodka, I've got Sacred Gin.
Yes.
You know, there's the beautiful Bloody Mary packs, and then actually last year you did the hampers as well, which is a complex pack.
Yes, it's very complex.
So from my sort of perspective, I thought it was a cracking idea from your business development, because you're tackling presumably people who bought your stuff beforehand with other goods. So you've already secured your brand of followers, so it's marketing more stuff to them. But in terms of your vision for the business and your scale of it, how important is that for you? So the diversification to other products.
It's really important because there are so many gins on the market.
Yes.
It also makes us accessible to other people. You know, believe it or not, there are people who don't like gin. It sounds like you're more of a vodka person.
I'm not a gin person.
Yes,
no. Please,
So,
I don't know if we should be telling anybody this, but no, out of Sacred Gin, you know, the Sacred Vodka is my best one. I'm glad it's now Sacred Spirits.
Yeah. So the first product we did that wasn't gin was a vermouth, because we were looking for things that go with gin that are complementary. So vermouth you use for a lot of gin cocktails, and our first vermouth was a sort of Rosso style vermouth, English spice vermouth, and that we made that to go into a Negroni or with dark spirits like a Manhattan.
Yes, my son's keen on the Negroni.
Yeah. And then we thought if we had the Negroni, you normally need another very famous Italian spirit, and we thought if we made our own version of that, we could have completely sacred Negronis.
Oh wow! And have you got those now?
Yes. So we made something called Rosehip Cup, because it was difficult to know what to call it, and that also makes lovely spirits. And then we were talking to Alessandro Palazzi, who makes great martinis at Duke's, and he saw the Rosso vermouth and said, if you could make a dry vermouth for me, that would be really nice for my cocktails. So we did that, and then we did an amber vermouth, which won the world's best. And it just kind of, and because we use vacuum distillation and distill all our botanicals separately, we can make lots of different gins. And we also do a bottle aged Negroni. So it kind of grew, but it was all quite organic. I mean, I don't mean in terms of, some of them are organic, but it just grew quite naturally.
Right, fabulous. Well, now I'm going to have to try the vermouth. So my son is dead keen on Negroni. I did not know your Rosehip Cup, by the way, was part of the ingredients of the Negroni. We'll have to have a Sacred Gin cocktail hour down in my bar in Brighton, and we'll sort all that out.
If you don't like a Negroni, it makes a great spritz.
Oh, good.
Cups.
Good, yes. Well, I'll be on it like a never fear. So quite a few of the things that I've heard you mention, like organic or botanical, and you've spoken about beautiful packaging. There have been a few key bits that we've seen many of our clients have struggled on. So, for example, if you're importing your own botanicals, and potentially speaking if they're organic as well, you need a 20-page form or something signed off in terms of
from January. Yes, and it will have to be signed off by the health authority of the port of entry.
And this is Brexit stuff, right?
It's all due to Brexit.
So how else has Brexit impacted your business? And you know, I know it's still impacted, but you know, how much worse would it have been if you were having to maintain all of your logistics?
So, for example, we don't always need a full container to take goods to and from, but and it was fine. You could just have a container and not fill it up now, or you could share with other people. But now you have to have a lot of paperwork to fill in, and if one of the other parties gets a piece of that paperwork wrong, then the goods are stuck. You know, no matter how efficiently, it holds up the whole container. So therefore, you're being pushed towards, even if you don't need a whole container, you're pushed towards having a whole container. Of course, that's really, really expensive. And the other thing about it is it's time filling all these forms in.
Sure.
That we could be doing other things.
Sure.
We never had to do that before. So, you know.
And are you seeing that this is impacting on the cost of your raw materials as well?
Definitely.
Okay. And is that going to be impacted in terms of end prices to consumers, or are you guys having to swallow that as it stands
We're
at the moment?
trying to swallow it as much as we can, but I'm not sure what will happen.
No, absolutely. I think it's inevitable that Brexit's going to have an inflationary sort of impact in terms of distribution and raw cost of goods. In fact, funnily enough, a girlfriend today was talking about putting off her house development until next year when the cost of raw goods has settled down. So I think we've got a real problem this year. So we've whizzed through all these sort of questions, and again, we're going for a glass of wine after this, so we can continue our chat. But I guess what I'm really seeking now is some of your insight, to fellow e-commerce traders and, particularly in the alcohol sector, of what your learnings are on three sort of areas like the pandemic, Brexit, and the future of retail. So in terms of the pandemic, and I'm going to make it about, just keep it simple in terms of outsourcing. What would you say, you learned in terms of the pandemic?
In terms of pandemic, in terms of outsourcing, I think whenever you can actually, you want to outsource. And in terms of pandemic, if we hadn't had Diamond, we wouldn't have been able to send stuff out to people. We would have been scuppered because we don't have a warehouse. We wouldn't have the staff. We couldn't have set one up to do that for ourselves then. So it would have been a real problem. So it was a real lifesaver having, outsourced our fulfillment.
Well, it's funny, people think outsourcing is an anathema, right? But I don't know about you, I don't do my tax return, I've got an accountant to do that, and I don't service my car, I've got a mechanic. And I think that's the same with the logistics.
I think particularly with, there are there's a lot of small alcohol brands, independent alcohol brands, and I think they probably think it's very expensive, it's something they don't want to do, but I actually think they would find it would save them money in the long term. But
it's also the opportunity cost of not spending that time focusing on the business.
Exactly. Yeah.
You guys are worth more than packaging parcels, although that's a very important job.
And I did get quite good at it.
Well, I think you should wrap the Christmas present today, because I'm rubbish at doing that. And then in terms of Brexit, what learnings have you got to share in terms of Brexit?
I think to allow more time, sort of build up stock again. We weren't able to have any bottlings throughout the pandemic, and so now with Brexit, it's so hard to get goods in and out of the country. That is causing huge problems. So you do need to build a lot of time into when you're thinking about bottling or manufacturing.
We've spoken a little bit about just in time being dead now, and we need to actually build up, sort of surplus in the supply chain, and that's something you kind of advocate.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then finally, just talking about the future of retail, really. When you're talking about, as far as I'm concerned as a consumer, we're all a bit sick of homogenised brands. There's something magical about finding an artisan brand and then creating a loyalty and a following of it all. But also, for your business, you're looking to scale it. So you must be looking at big retail. You must be looking at the restaurant and sort of pub trade, and you must be talking about your sort of direct to consumer. So what's your vision of that, and how do you think we're going to help you do that?
Well, we're going to continue to pursue all those factors, but I think the online business is particularly important because we are in some lovely places like Liberty and Selfridges, but we're not in any major chains. So it's really important. We get quite a lot of good press, so people can read about us. They know that they can buy us online. That's really important. And do you also send our bottles out to other customers as well as and when we need it? So that's really, really important. I mean, we actually physically can't do that ourselves. So,
I've always thought direct to consumer, if you're not sending it via retail, you must be retaining more profit, surely. So actually building your tribe and
absolutely,
the demand.
We'd always rather, it's great if people buy.
Absolutely. So you've got brand recognition in retailers, but then you build the following kind of online. And there's a lot of direct to consumer. I think there's some really big sneaker brands at the moment, aren't they, that are being stocked in other shops.
Yeah.
And you will have to buy direct from them and or their retail kind of stores. So I think that's really interesting in terms of retaining your profitability in quite a price sensitive kind of market as well.
And also in the traditional retail shops, there is not room for all the new brands. There's just not room for them. So they can't all jostle alongside. So
I can't imagine how tricky it must be in the great sea of unique food brands out there actually trying to sort of hold your flag above that. And I guess you guys have got the longevity because it's established in 2008. But the amount of gins, I mean, I've got probably 20 in my bar alone.
Oh,
so
there are so many. It's quite extraordinary. And people keep bringing out new ones. I keep thinking, I'm not sure if there's room, but they still keep selling. So,
yes, no, that's true. So finally, any new product developments at Sacred Spirits that I need to be keeping space in my bar for?
We have got a new development coming out next spring, but I can't say anything about it.
Excellent. Well, everybody watch this space and watch how Hilary continues to grow Sacred Spirits, sharing success with Diamond Logistics as we support her with her outsourced logistics e-com requirements. Thanks for listening. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.